Now, it shouldn't, or it usually doesn't make news when a baby wets themselves, and in this case, like, pees on themselves, whether it's during the day, whether it's during the night, and any time. It's actually like the normal thing. It's, however, not the same case when, in this case now, the person who is bedwetting is not a baby, where in this case it's a human being that should be able to take themselves to the loo, whether it's day or night. But now in this case they just bedwet at night. And also it should be looked into, because there could be an underlying reason as to why that person does that and cannot hold their bladder. Now, hello everybody, and welcome to Naomi's All-Inclusive World, where today I'll be looking at bedwetting, or like it's also called nocturnal enuresis, where particularly in this case it's bedwetting at night. Okay, now bedwetting, like in the simplest of language, is just that nighttime loss of bladder control. And where most of the time it happens to the children. But now in this particular case, I'm going to be looking at this case happening to people who are not children, to people who are of age, and who should ideally be able to wake themselves up and take themselves to the toilet and do their thing there. Now, it can have different causes that may or may not be due to any underlying disease. So again, this might just naturally happen because someone is probably in a dream or can't hold their bladder, or in some cases might happen because there's an underlying condition behind it, maybe a bladder sickness and something like that. So it's either way. Now, it can occur usually to kids of up to 5 as just part of the normal childhood development. But now in this case, it becomes a concern when it's happening to someone who is of higher age, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. And we've had cases where even adults actually lose the control of their bladder and they bedwet when they're just like, big adults with national IDs. And, some of the causes of people ending up as bedwetters could be cases like where someone actually just has a small bladder, bladder size, where now it's like they have to go to the loo after every very short moment, and this is just natural. No one asks to be born with a huge bladder or a small bladder, so this just happens naturally. And we have people who have small size bladders, so it fills up very fast, and yeah, it can actually get you by surprise when probably you just went to the loo an hour ago or something like that, and then you're in bed and the bladder fills up again, and you realize such a person can end up actually bedwetting. Also UTIs, untreated urinary tract infections can result into someone bedwetting. So again, if you have any infection of your UTI, if you have any UTI, you want to have it treated. You want to seek medical attention so that you don't end up having now another condition that results from untreated UTI. And also just sometimes fear and insecurity can actually lead into someone ending up bedwetting. This is very practical, and this is very true, and especially to people who have grown up, like say, in very insecure places, or people who have, like for example, some of us, take an example of myself, maybe having grown up in the village where there's no power, it's always dark, and so on. And then you always have those stories of, at night we have hyenas that are roaming around, or we usually have like baby snatchers who walk in the night, or we have night runners and so on who usually walk around. So I remember like sometimes parents would use such stories to actually, first of all, make you go to sleep quickly and stop disturbing them. But again, when you look at the other side of it, it can actually lead to one becoming a bedwetter, because imagine after I've been freaked out by my parent that hyenas walk out there at night. And remember, in the village you don't have indoor toilets. For those who have grown up in the country and in the village like myself, there are no indoor toilets, so you have to get out, maybe in the dark, or get some light, some candle or some light with you and so on. With such stories, it's like, oh, I'm gonna hold on my bladder until morning, and with time that might end up actually hurting your bladder. And number two, just because of that fear and that insecurity, you might end up actually bedwetting if you're not very careful. So yeah, insecurities and just fear can also be one of the reasons someone ends up actually bedwetting. And lastly, also apparently some neurological disorders, like for example being a post-stroke person. If someone who has been a patient of stroke, someone who has suffered from stroke before, can actually also have this disorder coming their way. Someone probably had stroke and they recovered from it and so on. But yes, it's also sometimes been found with people who have recovered from stroke. Some of the things you can do if you happen to be bedwetting, or if you have, say, a child or someone in the house who bedwets, you might want to monitor your fluid intake to just make sure that by the time you are retiring for bed, your bladder is almost empty, so that then you don't have to wake up in the morning or worry about waking up or ending up bedwetting. So watch your fluid intake, especially towards the evening and into the night. And then make a practice of waking yourself up at night, and whenever you do that, like, just go and empty your bladder, however little the pee is or much there is, so that then it doesn't catch you by surprise when it fills up, and then like maybe you are deep asleep and you wet the bed. So yeah. And then also just cut down on some of the foods that actually irritate your bladder, like alcohol, like just some foods. Check on your food intake, and also just rule out and avoid some foods that might be irritating your bladder, that now has to prompt you to go to empty your bladder to pee all the time and so on. So yeah, bedwetting is not very common, or at least it's not very commonly talked about, but it exists to people, some very, very just grown-up adults and so on. And yeah, it may be a disability in a way, and if not, it might end up actually disabling you socially, because now you end up being the talk of the house, the talk of the estate. Can you imagine every time like you have to hang your bedding out because and so on? It ends up actually just making the house not very habitable, because adult pee doesn't smell that good, and so on. And then should it also continue, you might want to make an appointment with your doctor to just check if there's anything that needs to be attended to, if there's any underlying condition and so on. And then also, especially in the event that this bedwetting also comes with like some discomfort, like like painful urination and unusual colorings and so on, unusual strange smells and so on, you might want to visit with your doctor to just check on the two situations. On one, the fact that you bedwet, and number two, if for example it looks strange or it smells strange and so on. Okay. Thanks for your time, and see you in my next video. And in the meantime, please like, share and subscribe if you are a first timer. And for the returning subscribers, asante sana, keep watching and let me know what you think.